And what has happened is that we baby boomers are very unique because we are the only generation in the entire history of mankind, for the entire period of time that we will be on this planet, to have gone through this transitional period of time with computer technology. And you know what? When it first started, we were promised a lot. We were given promises, in Reader's Digest magazine and Popular Mechanics, that we were having the arrival of this magical technology that would do all the work on our behalf. There were articles appearing in Reader's Digest that said, what is mankind going to do when they're only working 4 hours a week and they live this life of leisure? So we started out with these mystical promises as to how wonderful it was going to be, and then it started getting pretty weird. And I found it such a fascinating thing, I ended up writing a book about what we went through. One of the 37 books I wrote called Surviving the Information Age. And what I did was I went back and looked at what Reader's Digest was writing in 1960 and 1961 and 1964. What they were promising us in terms of the future potential of technology versus the reality of what was occurring. It was a fascinating project to work on. Because what I learned was we went through this whole series of stunningly bad predictions. Popular Mechanics in 1949 had an article that maybe one day in the future, computers might weigh less than 1.5 tons. Imagine that. The head of the FCC in 1961 made the observation that there is no way that space satellites will be used to provide telephone, telegraph, television, radio. Didn't even mention data services, because they couldn't conceive that such a future could happen. I think there is a worldwide market for maybe 5 computers. This was the head of IBM in 1943. I've traveled the length and breadth of this country, I've talked with the smartest people. I have concluded that data processing is a fad that won't last longer than a year. This is the head of Prentice Hall Books in 1957. There is no reason why anyone would ever want a computer in their home. This is the head of Digital Equipment in 1977. And there's my little guys in the home office, looking at the technology, but think about it. Think about it. Think about the number of computers we've grown up with in our home. We went through stunningly bad predictions, ridiculous predictions that were so often wrong about computer technology. 640K ought to be enough for everybody. This is Bill Gates, for crying out loud. And so, what began to happen was we baby boomers were given a promise as to how wonderful technology was going to be, and it was turning out to be something different altogether. And it didn't always go well. Some of us were a little freaked out. Some of us were a little intimidated. Some of us found the voyage to be a little bit rougher than we expected. Some of us were mystified. And when I went and wrote this book, I started discovering these fascinating stories about the challenges that people had with computer technology. What happened one day at Dell Computer, at their computer support desk, they got a call. And they record all their calls, and they send around quality summaries to management, and somehow this story leaked out. A fellow at Dell Computer one day got a call, and it was from a customer. This lady had called in, and she was reporting to Dell that her coffee cup holder was broken. And he said to her, "Ma'am, we're Dell Computers, we sell computers. I have no idea what you're calling about." And she said, "Well, you sold me this computer, and the coffee cup holder on it is broken, and I would like to have it repaired." It took him 10 minutes to figure out that what was happening was she was coming into the office in the morning. She would come up to her computer with a cup of coffee. She would press the button for the CD-ROM tray. The drawer would slide out. She'd take a cup of coffee and put it on top. The darn thing eventually snapped off. True story. We went through challenges. We went through challenges with the technology. I dug out this fascinating story from the state of Oregon, where a fellow in the mid-70s wanted a custom license plate. And so he contacted the Department of Motor Vehicles. And apparently what you do is you fill out a form. You get 3 choices. He was a sailing enthusiast. So the first custom license plate he wanted it to read yachting. His second choice was sailing. And he kind of thought, if I don't get choice number 1, I don't get choice number 2. Boating seems kind of lame. So if I can't get choice number 1 or 2, I just don't want a custom license plate. So in box number 3, he wrote in no plate. He sent in the form. A week later, he gets his custom license plate in the mail. He opens up the packaging. He's expecting, excitement to see the license plate that he wants. What does the license plate read? No plate. Because what happens is computers do what you tell them to do. It went into the data processing department, they key punched it in. The COBOL program came along, choice number 1 isn't available, choice number 2 is not available, choice number 3 is available, give it to him and print that plate. The story didn't end there. You know, he stuck it on his car. He thought it'd be a good conversation piece, you know, go to a cocktail party, you know, tell the story. He's got this license plate called No Plate. A couple of days later, after he started driving around, he got a ticket in the mail. Having a vehicle not properly licensed, registered in the state of Oregon. The next day, he got 2. Within a week, he was receiving 7 or 10 a day. And he started calling the Department of Motor Vehicles to figure out what had happened. They finally figured out what would happen is they would have an officer in the field finding an abandoned vehicle and would write in on the summons, the ticket, the reason for infraction, no plate, went into the computer processing department, did the logic, boom, send the ticket to him. Is it no wonder we're freaked out by technology? We went through some pretty bizarre stuff. We had to use this stuff in the office. Our IT departments were automating processes, putting in place software, putting in place technology, putting in stuff like Windows, and all of a sudden, we started getting this. We'd be in the middle of a really big project, just about to hit the save button, you know, and we'd get the blue screen of death. We'd get these error messages. This is one I had one day. I was using Macromedia Dreamweaver. No error occurred. What do I do here? Do I press it okay or don't I? You know, it's freaking me out. You know, we went through stuff that it's just mind-boggling to comprehend. You know, and so people started having fun with error messages. Big error, you really screwed up this time. I know, what else is new? It's my first day. And you know, it just seemed to get worse and worse and worse. You know, our screens would just get overloaded with stuff. And so what has happened with us is we are a very unique generation. And you know what? Some of us think, you know, Robert Kingsley, who's one of the famous computer scientists, he said, you know, if the automobile had followed the same development path as early technology, you know, a car today would cost $100, get 1,000,000 miles to the gallon, would blow up once a year, killing everybody inside. You know, we just went through so much that I don't think any generation will ever go through again in terms of the introduction of technology into the workplace. And so here we are. We feel battered and bruised. And for the younger folks in the crowd, you know, you often have a frustration with us. You're often wondering, you know, why are you so different? Why are you so weird? Why do you struggle with this stuff so much? And Ogden Nash captured our generation perfectly when he made the observation that for a lot of us, progress is great, but it's gone on way too long. A lot of folks in our generation, you know, when it comes to all this fast-paced change, we wish it would slow down. We wish it would go away. We wish the world would stay the same. And the thing is, it won't. And now what is happening in the workplace is we're having a lot of challenges. A lot of challenges as new technologies, new stuff is brought into the marketplace. You know, in the UK, 1 out of 3 dealers of automobiles does not feel comfortable selling a car today because they don't understand the technology gear inside the car. They don't get the MP3 players, the Bluetooth technology. They don't get all the connectivity that is in there. It's real. What has really happened is we have a generation that is, to a degree, scarred by their relationship with the early days of technology. And that's why a lot of us, you know, we cling to the comfortable, we cling to the familiar, we cling to routine. Einstein said, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result each time, well, that's how we define insanity. We are different. We are unique. The next generation is fundamentally different. Today, we have for folks, you know, who are 35 or 40 or 30 or 25 or under in the workplace, I call them Gen Connectors. The folks who have grown up with the internet since birth. And we live in a really unique transitional period of time. And there is no better way to understand how unique a period of time we live in than to look at this little cartoon. Here is a child helping his father install some software. Because this goes on in a lot of situations. Where the child is sitting back, okay, Dad, you've loaded the disk, and what you got to do is you got to transfer the file to here. And then, Dad, what you are going to do is you are going to double-click to open the program. So the child is walking his father through step by step how to install a piece of software. And the last frame really puts in perspective the unique period of time in which we find ourselves today. See, Dad, that's how you install an internet porn filter. about it. I mean, we live in an absolutely extraordinary period of time. You know, and to think about what is going on in the workplace, to think about the clash between the generations, to think about what is occurring. And this generation is a force to be reckoned with. You know, half the global population today is under the age of 25. This generation is wired, they're collaborative, they're entrepreneurial, and they are now coming into industries, including the P&C industry, and looking to drive change. Because they think in a different way about innovation. They think in a different way about change. You know, I used to do change management workshops. This is what baby boomers do. We would attend change management workshops to help us cope with all the change going on in the workplace. I stopped doing change management workshops when a 25-year-old came up to me and said, I don't get it. Why do you do change management workshops? Just change already. You know, there's this massive confusion between the generations.